Welcome back to the Free Hour. It's your boy Trevor Turner, here with another video in our Mindfulness series, our Mindfulness ABC series. Last week was letter C. We talked about cultivating calmness. And now we're on the letter D. What if the key to lasting mindfulness isn't just about peace, but discipline? And today we're going to be talking about D is for discipline in the context of mindfulness. Mindfulness as a path to self-discovery and growth with practical strategies for integrating mindfulness into daily life for success. And what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be talking about how discipline plays a crucial role in maintaining a mindful practice, building consistency, and fostering personal growth. So let's talk about understanding discipline and mindfulness. Discipline is the consistent, dedicated practice of mindfulness, even when it's challenging, especially when it's challenging. Especially when it's hard. Mindfulness is not just about feeling relaxed, but it's about developing the mental discipline to stay present and engaged in the moment. It's about cultivating that ability, even when you want to escape so bad, even when you want to escape to thinking about the future, even when you want to escape to thinking about the past, even when you want with everything in your being to resist what's going on in the present moment because the present moment feels fucked up. It's about having that discipline to continue to stay grounded, continue to stay present, continue to stay in the moment, continue to stay in the now. And developing this mental discipline to stay present and to stay engaged is essential. Mindfulness requires regular practice to be effective. And that's where discipline comes in so much. Discipline ensures that you stay committed even when life gets busy, even when life gets stressful, especially when life gets busy and especially when life gets stressful. Research shows that people who commit to consistent mindfulness practice experience greater benefits such as improved focus, emotional regulation, and stress reduction. Let's talk about the science behind discipline and mindfulness. Consistent mindfulness practices strengthen neural pathways associated with attention and emotional regulation. We talk about that. We talk about Dr. Judson Brewer. It's a neuroscientist and psychiatrist known for his work on mindfulness and habit formation. His research shows that consistent mindfulness practice helps reduce stress and build emotional resilience by rewiring the brain for self-control. Now, one of the things that we think about is it's something that we talk about when it comes to the prefrontal cortex, something that we talk about when it comes to the amygdala. It's something that we talk about when we come to emotional regulation. It's something that we talk about when it comes to awareness, is that you have to commit. You have to do it even when trying to force yourself out of your feelings, even when trying to force yourself back into being mindful, even when trying to force yourself to be completely and fully present in a shitty and terrible moment is difficult and hard. It's about disciplining yourself to do and sacrifice, and doing that on a regular basis. Doing that with discipline, doing that with consistency actually not only reduces stress, but it builds that emotional resilience. When you're able to be mindful of what's going on within you through some of the most stressful situations, through some of the most terrifying situations, through some of the most sad situations, those situations where you feel lost, those situations where you feel lost, those situations where you just feel like everything's crumbling around you, and you're able to continue to be mindful, it builds emotional resilience. We talk about mindfulness in the prefrontal cortex. Discipline and mindfulness strengthens the prefrontal cortex, improving your ability to regulate emotions and stay focused. Now, we talked about this in our video for emotional intelligence, and I'll kind of touch on it again here. The amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, they are connected. Prefrontal cortex, logical brain. Human brain. Prefrontal cortex, future-thinking brain, forward-thinking brain, goal-oriented brain. Amygdala, emotional brain. They call it monkey brain. Sometimes they call it reptile brain. It's the part of your brain that drops you into fight or flight. It's the part of your brain that reacts off feeling. It's the part of your brain when you get angry and you want to do something and you just can't control yourself and you do it. It's the amygdala. The amygdala is strong in a lot of people. And unfortunately, the connections between the amygdala and prefrontal cortex are not evolutionarily in tune with where we are as a people, with where we are as a species, with where we are as society, right? Those connections between those two parts of the brain, they're like circumspect, they're like roundabout, they're like jerry-rigged type connections. Those connections that would filter emotional responses from the amygdala through the prefrontal cortex to say, wait, hold on. Is that something that we need to be doing? Is that something that is going to be positive? Is that something that's going to help us get to where we're wanting to go? Because the amygdala is just like, no, survive. The amygdala is just like, no, this is a danger. This is a threat. The amygdala is like, no, we're scared of this. We're mad about this. We're worried about this. We're insecure about this. We're sad about this. This is loss they're trying to take. They're trying to make us lose. And you filter that through your prefrontal cortex to be able to say, no, we're not. That's not this. It's not that severe. It's not that big a deal. It's not a personal attack. It's not a personal affront. And when you have discipline in mindfulness, it strengthens that action. It strengthens that filter, that stopgap. It strengthens your prefrontal cortex, which is your forward thinking, your human brain. And when we talk about that, we talk about Dr. Sarah Lazar. It's a neuroscientist at Harvard, specializes in studying the impact of mindfulness on the brain. Research shows that regular mindfulness practice can increase the thickness of the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus, areas of the brain responsible for decision-making and memory. So it actually not only makes the connections between those two areas, your amygdala and your prefrontal cortex, stronger. It makes those connections more efficient to where that your neurons are firing from your amygdala into your prefrontal cortex instead of into your reactions, instead of into that flight, instead of into that fight. It's into that decision making, into that logical piece of your brain. But it actually makes those areas visibly thicker, actually make those areas stronger. So now that we know that, let's talk about how to build discipline into our mindfulness practice. This is something I talk about on everything. This is something that I think is super important. Start small to build consistency. The importance of starting with small, manageable sessions and gradually increasing the time as you build consistency. I recommend setting a daily time and place for mindfulness practice to establish a routine. And you're not going to try to jump in and just be mindful for hours on end or hours at a time. You might practice jumping in and being mindful for 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the middle of the day, 5 minutes at night. You might jump in with trying to be mindful while you're working out. You might jump in and try to be mindful while you're washing the dishes, mindful while you're cooking dinner. And you do these things in a small way to help you build consistency. It's one of the things, as an example, because in a lot of ways, these are things that exercise our brain. Like we just said, Dr. Sarah Lazar, you can actually make these areas thicker. This is a muscular exercise that works in a little bit of a different way in how that we actually train this part of our body. And it's something that I've told to people when they want to get into working out. One of the things you do when you're trying to get into working out is you don't immediately jump into doing what people who have been working out for years and years and years and years and years every single day consistently are doing. You do something that you can handle. You might do something that you can easily handle. You might do something that when you're done, you say, you know what, I could have done a lot more. But I guarantee you this, you'll be able to do that again and again and again. On a bad day, you'll be able to do a quick workout. On a day that you're feeling tired, you'll be able to do a quick workout. On a late night when you're getting home from work late, you'll be able to do a quick workout until you get into the point where it's consistent, until you get into the point where you've built that discipline, until you get into the point where it's become so much of a habit that now even on a bad day, you can do a heavy-ass workout. Now, even on a bad day, you might look forward to that heavy-ass workout. Now, on a bad day, you're looking forward to the long workout. Now, on a bad day, it's easy to get into that gym. On a day that you didn't get no sleep, and on a day that you didn't eat that much, and on a day that your body's feeling like shit and you're just feeling like dragging, you're still able to get in there because you've built that consistency. You have the discipline. And it's the same with our mindfulness. See, the thing about it is we go through life, and our mind is like a garden, and we're not taking the precautions for what grows in the garden of our mind. We're letting weeds grow. We're letting pests and animals get to the good things that we're trying to grow in our mind because we're not mindful enough. So what we need to do is we need to start consistently getting in there and getting those weeds out. We need to start consistently getting in there, getting those destructive thoughts out, getting those pests out, getting those negative thoughts out, getting those emotionally charged thoughts out, getting those reactions out instead of being proactive. You start small and build consistency until you're able to be in your mental garden, until you're able to be in that mental space where you're mindful about what it is that's going on a regular basis easily. One of the ways to build that consistency, obviously, is to use a tracking system. One of the things that I did, a habit tracker or an app to log your mindfulness is just like, it's so amazing with how much it just helps you to build that discipline and consistency. When I was first starting to do my mindfulness exercises, when I was first starting to get into this different mental mode, I was actually using a book. I was doing the things from Benjamin Franklin, in Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. He talked about 13 different categories of self-improvement. And it was like, like temperance, it was honesty, it was silence, it was a bunch of these things. And what he would do is he would go day by day by day for 13 weeks, and he would track, like the first one, it'd say like the temperance, which is don't eat or drink, too much. So it's like if coffee messes with you, keeps you up late at night, don't drink too much coffee. If alcohol has you fucked up, don't drink too much alcohol. If you're eating so much that you're gaining weight, don't eat too much food. Like, be mindful of what it is that you're putting in your body on that level. And the next one was like, don't talk to excess. Don't talk about things that aren't, good for building other people up or building up what it is that you're trying to do. Stuff like that. Being careful with your integrity, being careful with your honesty, being careful with all of those things. Working out, doing exercise, whatever, all of those things, right? So I got into the habit of tracking my habits. So after these 13 weeks, I was like, okay, so what else can I put in there? What else is something that I want to do every day that I can just do? So one of the things is I would do is like I would track my my morning routine with the savers, which is, the silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. And then also I would get into the habit of like tracking reflection. And this is something that when it comes into mindfulness is that when you log your mindfulness sessions, when you keep track, whenever you open up what it is that you're using, whether it's like pen and paper calendar, whether it's alerts that you might get or notifications from different apps like Calm, Headspace, or even Journal, or you might have something in your calendar where you have it marked off and time blocked to where it actually shows you the notification, or you might have something in like Notion or, Good Notes or whatever the case. When you go into whatever it is, if you're not in the habit of doing it yet, you'll see it and immediately be able to get to it. And that's why you start with the small things, because when you're going through your stuff, let's say you're going through your stuff a little bit late at night, are you going to have time for like a 30-minute mindfulness session? Are you going to have time for like a 30-minute breathing exercise? No, you're going through this right before the sleep just to make sure that you tied up all your loose ends for the day. But you got time for 5 minutes real quick. You got time to go through your self-awareness for 5 minutes real quick. You got time to go through the things that were affecting you emotionally real quick. You got time to go through the things that brought you out of your calm or brought you out of your good decision makings. You have time to go through that for 5 minutes until you are consistently doing it without having to think about it. That is how you build that discipline. And habit trackers are so good for this, especially like apps like Calm, Headspace, especially like a simple journal. Put it on your calendar. Time block it. That's one of the things when we talk about time blocking, and the C video for the productivity series was calendars. We talked about time blocking. We talked about how important time blocking is for integrating things into your life, especially as it comes to the free hour. When it comes to the free hour, when you time block out your free hour, this is a time for integrating new things into your life. When it comes to things like mindfulness, when it comes to things like discipline and integrating new things into your life, time block it. Put it in your habit tracker, put it in your calendar, put it in your daily routine, put it in there. So that way you won't have to think about it so much. You won't have to force yourself. You'll see it, you'll do it until you start doing it and be like, okay, I did it. Boom, I can check it off. And then of course, overcoming challenges to discipline. Common challenges like distractions, boredom, busy schedule, scrolling on your phone, doing stuff like that, or being tired, whatever the case. When those distractions come up, and it can be very hard when you're just kind of like out of it. It can be very hard when you're just like trying to escape. It can be very hard to bring yourself back to these things. But one of the things that I would say to do is this. Whether or not you remember what it is you're supposed to be doing in that moment, when the distractions come up, break out into a body scan. Break out into some deep breathing. Break out into a mindfulness technique. Break out into a mindfulness technique to bring yourself back to the present, to bring yourself back to the now. So that way you can remember what it is that you were supposed to be doing at that moment. And that is even something that you can put in your habit tracker right there. Okay, I found myself doing something else. I found myself trying to escape something. I found myself doing something that I shouldn't have been doing and vegging out on something, whatever the case. Like, I went to watch something on TV and ended up scrolling on my phone for some reason. I had to take a step back and okay, like I was about to watch this show and I ended up scrolling on my phone. Like from the time I clicked on the remote to open up the app to watch the thing, I was already scrolling on my phone. And I did that for 15 minutes. And I had to take the step back and I had to breathe and I had to do my scan. I had to be like, okay, like why is it that I'm in this mode? Why is it that I'm like so distracted, so easily distracted? And I was able to get back to myself, even though I wasn't like on the clock to do anything super important. Like I was like in the midst of doing something and just immediately went into distractions. So I brought myself back with some mindfulness. Every time that you're in one of those spaces, just immediately break out into a body scan, immediately break out into a breathing exercise. And that way build the discipline, and it builds the discipline to get it back into what it is that you were doing. So you may not have been like on the way or in the midst of doing like a session or doing like something creative or whatever the case. You may have just like found yourself scrolling and just been like, okay, hold on. What it is that's going on? Okay, so this is free time. Let me do something else with my free time. When you get into the habit of doing that and breaking yourself out of the distractions, that helps you to build discipline and mindfulness. And we talk about applying discipline to mindfulness in daily life. When we talk about mindfulness as a daily habit, when we integrate mindfulness into everyday activities. When we build discipline and staying present throughout the day, a lot of times it's by integrating them into daily activities. When I talked about it before, mindfully washing the dishes, mindful working out. You can do mindful listening where you're fully engaged with whoever it is that you're talking to, or fully engaged with whatever it is that you're consuming, whatever it is that you're watching, being fully engaged with every bit of it that you see. Getting out of your thoughts, getting out of those scattered brain thoughts, getting out of those things that are trying to drive you away from what it is that you're doing right now, and just get into what it is that you're watching, into what it is that you're hearing, completely mindfully doing it. You can mindfully walk, you can mindfully eat, you can fully focus on the way that it tastes, you can fully focus on how it feels, the mouth feel of whatever it is that you're eating. You can fully focus on all the different flavors and all the flavors of the seasonings. You can fully focus on the texture of it, on the way that it feels when you're chewing on it, on the way that it feels when you swallow it, how it feels going down. You can fully focus on every aspect of it, the heat of it, the cold of it. You can mindfully do all of those things. You can mindfully wash the dishes. Focus on the way that the sponge feels on your hand. Focus on the way that the different materials that they make the dishes out of feel in your hands. Focus on the smell of the soap. Focus on the feel of the slickness on the soap or the slickness of the water. Focus on the way that it feels. Focus on fully being present in that moment. And then setting long-term goals for your mindfulness practice also helps to build discipline in it. The importance of setting mindfulness goals, such as committing to a certain number of minutes per day or completing a mindfulness program, is something that will help to build the discipline. Because when you have a goal, when you have something to shoot for, when you have something that you're striving to do, that helps to build that discipline. It's like having a deadline. By this time, I'm going to be doing this. By this time, I'm going to have this. By this time, I'm going to accomplish this. I'm going to be doing this much or this amount or this period of time or these techniques, and I'm going to have them done, and I'm going to have them down by this time and this date. And then also setting weekly or monthly review sessions to assess progress and to adjust your goals as needed. Maybe you need more. Maybe you need less. Maybe you're able to graduate from the beginner program and actually get into some real deep daily mindfulness, where you do have that hour of mindfulness, where you do have that 30 minutes of mindfulness, where you do have every single task that you do and every single decision that you make, you're able to filter through your mindfulness. Every activity that you're doing, you're able to start mindfully doing it. You're mindfully getting dressed in the morning. You're mindfully showering. You're mindfully brushing your teeth. You're mindfully putting on your deodorant. You're mindfully spraying on your cologne or perfume. You're mindfully putting on your little jewelry. You're mindfully tying your shoes. You're mindfully loading up your backpack, your briefcase. You're mindfully putting the stuff in your pockets. You're mindfully driving to work. You're mindfully on the bus. You're mindfully doing everything that you can do. And then every time distractions come, you're mindfully breaking yourself out of those distractions. You're mindfully breaking yourself out of the monotony of the day, not getting lost in any bit of it. Not losing sight of your reflection, not forgetting what you look like, not being like they said in the Bible, the man who looks in the mirror and forgets his reflection as soon as he walks away. Mindful, being mindful. So let's talk about the benefits of discipline and mindfulness. Of course, improved focus and emotional regulation. The long-term benefits of consistent mindfulness practice are enhanced focus, greater emotional regulation, and improved mental clarity. Mental health can literally be transformed. Productivity can literally be transformed. Your destination can be changed. Your trajectory can be changed through discipline, mindfulness. Your outlook on the world, your perspective, your relationships can be changed through disciplined mindfulness because it leads to growth. Discipline and mindfulness supports personal growth. It helps us become more self-aware, more resilient, and more emotionally balanced. Having that discipline, having that commitment, even when things are hard, especially when everything seems to be going wrong, especially when everything seems to be coming against you, especially when you just seem to be banging your head up against the wall and you don't know what to do and you don't know where to go. And you don't know how to think about this stuff, and you want to get into your emotions. You want to get it lost in your thoughts. You want to get away from what it is that's going on in the present moment. That is when you need to kick in that discipline to be mindfulness. It's just like about going to the gym when you're tired. It's just like trying to do homework when you don't want to do it. The same thing is trying to go above and beyond at work when you don't feel like doing it, when you're sick of your boss, you're sick of your coworkers, but you know that promotion could possibly be around the corner. You have to get it in. You have to lock in. You have to commit to something. And discipline is how you do it. You have to buckle down. But then creating consistency, creating habit is the best way to get to it, to get to discipline. So we talked about the importance of discipline and mindfulness. We talked a little bit about the science behind it. We talked about some practical strategies. We talked about some of the benefits and how it leads to personal growth. I'm going to encourage you guys to commit to a daily mindfulness practice, no matter how small, and to track your progress over the next few weeks. No matter how small, daily. I don't care if it's a 2-second deep breath where you get out of your thoughts. And see, the thing about it is it may seem ridiculously small. It may seem comically small. It may seem too small for you, but if it's more than you were doing before, it's not too small. I had somebody who wanted to get into the habit of running. And they said, okay, I'm going to start running a mile every day. Okay, well, how many laps did you run before? Well, I wasn't running anything. How many laps were you walking? I wasn't walking anything. Okay, yeah, run 1 lap a day for a week. Well, I can do that easy. That's too easy. That's not enough, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so they went out and they tried to do the whole mile. They made it the first day. They ran half the mile. They walked half the mile. The next day, they were so sore they couldn't do nothing. The next day they got out there, they did a couple laps, and then they didn't get out there and run for 3 weeks. Until finally I said, look, to develop that discipline, you need to get consistency. You need to build consistency. You need to build habit. So that way on the days that you're sore as fuck, you can get out there and run. You can get out there and do something. So starting with that 1 lap a day, he built himself up to being able to run 1.5 miles every day, 2 miles every day, 5 miles every day, and he started timing himself. He started getting faster. He started doing it to set little personal bests and records. But the thing was, he developed the discipline through consistency, because discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Lock in, get disciplined, especially when it comes to mindfulness. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been your boy Trevor Turner. Once again, it's the free hour. If you like the video, comment on it. If you're doing mindfulness practices now, if you're getting disciplined, if you're getting locked in, or if there was something that helped you get locked in on something, whether it was a traumatic event, canon event, whatever the case, something that went on in your life, breakup. For me, it was losing somebody, obviously. For me, it was going to prison, losing everybody. I had to lock in. I had to get there. I had to do better. I had to. And that is what helped me to build that discipline. And if it's something like that for you, go ahead and share it with us. If it's something that you feel like could help other people get to it, go ahead and share it with us. Talk about how you got to discipline. Talk about your struggles with getting to discipline, if you got them. If you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe. Share it with your friends. Thank you so much for watching. It's your boy Tree. Deuces.